Welcome to the RPG Book Club. I said the. I'm gonna start over.
No, it's fine. I like our sort
Okay.
of inability to decide which it is.
Great. Welcome to the RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and can't decide on whether the belongs in the title or not. I am Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
And I'm Francesco JRPG T. Nasso.
Excellent. And today we are playing part 1 of Rise from the Ashes from Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Before we get started on that, though, you had something to say? Okay.
Who, me?
Yes, you sounded like you were about to say something.
No, I must have just made a noise. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. How was your week?
Oh, I'm sorry. That might be a person in the next door room. Sorry if there's a tiny bit of muttering, Bernard, but it's pretty quiet. You should be able to level that shit out.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like someone had breathed in and was about to say something.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna get easily confused tonight. But anyway, yes. How was everyone's week?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess should I start with that?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah, I actually, it's kind of funny. Earlier today, I was actually in an actual courtroom.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You did say you had jury duty.
Yeah, I had jury duty.
How apropos.
Exactly. And I missed a perfect opportunity to actually play the game in court, which I think you could technically do because you end up spending 6-7 hours, however long you're in there, just waiting, to be called. So,
yeah,
could have actually done it if I had the foresight.
Were there any exciting turnabouts?
Oh, none, absolutely none. So, instead of the fun magical world of court like you have in the Phoenix Wright games, actual court is a lot like the Hunger Games, where you have a bunch of people lined up and they're not allowed to leave, and everyone's kind of hesitating for their name to be called. And unlike Hunger Games, though, it's some people want their names to be called, other people don't, and it all really depends on how late in the day you actually get called. Because if you get called super late, there's a good chance that they're just going to send you home and say, okay, be on your way, never come back again. Or, if you're much earlier in the day, there's probably a chance you're going to get called up again and have to go, do more work and stuff.
Well, I've actually never had jury duty. I'm not sure why. Whatever. But I guess it just never happened. What do you mean? I thought jury was just there to watch the trial and then deliberate at the end. But what is the calling you up for?
Yes. So they actually have to call you up to basically get interviewed to see whether or not you're a good fit for the particular case.
Oh, that.
Gotcha. And I mean, they're mostly fine. Some of the cases can go for a pretty extended length of time.
So when you're jury duty, that's not for one case. You do multiple, theoretically.
It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I actually got called into jury duty several years back, along with apparently 1,500 other people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. There was a capital murder case that occurred in Waco, and
that sounds like Waco.
It had been so widely publicized there that everybody in Waco knew what the fuck was going on, and so they couldn't get an unbiased jury. So they moved the trial to Georgetown, Texas, and then was
Michael McConaughey the out-of-town prosecutor that everybody hated? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. That situation you just described is the plot of the film Bernie. Jack Black's character murders someone, but the person that he murders sucked and everyone hated her, and he is sweet and everyone loves him. So nobody in the town will testify against him, so they have to hold the trial somewhere else.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so I'm in this room with tons and tons of other people. I was like, is this what jury duty's like? Because every other time I've gotten a notice, I didn't have to come in. something came up and I just didn't have to do jury duty. And I'm sitting here and I'm there for 6.5 hours. And instead of like interviewing us individually, they give us a big ass survey to fill out.
Wow.
And so I sat there and I filled out this survey and I answered all their questions about the death penalty, which, for the record, I am 100% against the death penalty. I live in fucking Texas and I am completely anti-death penalty.
So did that make you not suitable for jury duty?
Thankfully, yes. It made me not suitable for jury duty, and I made sure, like, I was very clear at every opportunity where it was like, would you feel comfortable deciding on blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, no, I fucking wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I would never want someone's life to be in my hands, and I hope you never call me again, please. So, yeah, I was very worried that I was going to get called up because they had like a huge list of names that they wanted to call up initially after we had all turned in our surveys. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I was not a part of that, and then like I had to call in once every so often to see if they needed me, and thankfully they didn't. But it was just, oh God.
That's wild. So, Francesco, how many trials did you have to be in?
No, much less. I actually didn't end up going to trial, but I got interviewed for one case.
Cool.
Yeah, what basically happens is, they'll select like a certain amount of jury people to you fill in for a case, and then once that's filled, they'll just send everyone else who's there, back to the pool to be assigned to something else, and if they go a full day and don't qualify for any trials, then, they could just go on their merry way.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you didn't have to waste all your time doing that. Yeah, like I said, it never happened to me before, so maybe one day I'll have to experience the boredom of jury duty. And I will make sure to bring my Nintendo DS and play Phoenix Wright while I'm doing it. Anything else going on with you?
No. I mean, just basic work stuff. Yeah, just excited for, I don't know, the rest of the week playing more Phoenix Wright.
I have one exciting thing. Like I said before, I have healthcare now, which is very exciting. Woo! And I met with my primary care doctor on Thursday. I was surprised. I called them. I was a little bit late paying my premium, so my care didn't go into effect on January 1st like it was supposed to. It went into effect on like the 5th because I hadn't paid my premium. So then I had to wait to get like assigned an ID number or whatever. Anyway, after that finally happened, it's Tuesday, and I call thinking, oh, this is going to be forever, right? And I called to set up an appointment with my new primary care doctor that they just assigned me to, and they're like, oh, are you free tomorrow? And I'm like, what? No, actually. And they're like, okay, well, you're free Thursday. So I go and I see her on Thursday, and again, it was just a quick intake meeting, but I'm a pretty healthy person, so I had two things. I was like, I need help with my hormones and other translated shit, and I need to get referred to a mental health specialist, or to a psychiatrist, so that I can get help with some of my mental health stuff. And I thought that I was going to have to get referred to some kind of like some sort of endocrinologist or trans care specialist, but actually the doctor was just like, oh no, I can prescribe you hormones, that's no big deal, I can just do that right now. So I am back on the Moans, and I have the highest prescription I've ever had, highest dosage. I raised my dosage.
Woo!
So that's super exciting, in ways that a small portion of people truly understand. But also, though, I'm on track to getting mental health care and other stuff. So yeah, even though it costs an arm and a leg, it's nice to have health care. And other than that, I don't know, just working and playing Phoenix Wright. I played the entirety of the game Anodyne. I won't go into it, but it's a really good game. I liked it a lot, and I can't wait to play its sequel, which I've heard is not just good, but like outrageously good. So yeah, and then getting real mad about politics. Anyway, that's me. What about you, Eli?
I've had a pretty uneventful week. I can't really think of anything significant that came up.
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah, just kind of chilling.
Frankly, that's good, honestly.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with
yeah.
Uneventful right now.
Yeah, a week where I have nothing at all to share would be really cool. Yeah, well, that's great. Is there any, like, businessy stuff we need to get out of the way before we get started?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Last week we didn't do a good job of stopping to insert the music. Sorry, Bernard. So let's do that this time. Let's listen to a new track, aka a track that did not appear in the game previously, but is new to this DLC section. Let's all listen to that right now. Just as a reminder, this episode is sort of like DLC. It was a chapter that was added to the DS release of the game. Now, the GBA release didn't ever come out in America, so for Americans, this is the only version of the game there is. But for Japanese players, this might be the second time they've purchased the game, so they have this big, beefy new chapter to play with. And as you'll see, it makes use of the Nintendo DS technology, which is really cool. So you start Chapter 5. It's called Rise from the Ashes, which, of course, is a reference to the Phoenix. Although I think it's a little funny because, like, it's not like Phoenix died, right? It's not like Phoenix is rising from the ashes like he was defeated or anything. Whatever.
If it was a matter of he died and then he's coming back to life for this, that would be great.
But even metaphorically, that didn't happen. So no one is rising from the ashes except for, I guess, perhaps the game itself. But, you know, it's still a cute little title.
Well, he goes, like, 2 months without any cases, so maybe
that's true. That's true. But it's not like he suffered a miserable... Yeah, it's actually... So, speaking of which, so we start the game, and right off the bat, we see something we've never seen before in the game so far. An animation?
This was weird.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't really notice it at first because you don't understand why that's weird, but then you realize, oh wait, every single thing in the game up until now has been only still images, right?
Yeah, the silhouette that they had, I'm pretty sure they did that in 3D.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense, actually. Yeah, and whether it's 3D or not, the fact is, like, things are moving on screen, right?
Yeah.
So you're just like, what? So there's a city at night. Just an overview of, like, of skyscrapers and stuff. And then you see a silhouette, and then the silhouette starts to move, because, this is an animation. This is the Nintendo DS, baby.
I was like, am I playing a different game? What's going on?
Yeah. It's really hip, too. The silhouette raises up a knife, but then as it raises up the knife, it's almost like the camera angle changes or something, and it splits into two silhouettes. So there's two different silhouettes, both with knives raised, and they both go down at the same time, which is interesting. Is that just... are there two murderers, or is that just a stylistic flourish, right? It reminds me of the intro of, like, a Persona game, right? That's kind of what it reminds me of. It's all this cool imagery that's sort of vague. Anyway, then as the knife goes down, a weird clown thingy breaks. You'll find out what that is in a second. Maybe the knife destroyed the weird clown thingy. I don't know. And then there's a close-up of a very, very, very hard to make out silhouette with a little bit of detail of the person from the front. And we can't tell really who they are, but we can tell that they have long hair. They have sort of long, bishy, feminine hair. But that's about all we know. So now we're at Phoenix Wright's office. It's been as Eli said a second ago, it's been 2 months since the last trial. It's February now. He hasn't had a single trial in 2 months, but not because no one wants to hire him. He's apparently been turning them down. He seems depressed. We didn't really get much information about why that's the case. Did y'all pick up on something about why he might have been depressed or not taking on cases?
Probably something to do with me. I don't know. Oh, because Maya left.
Yeah. So I guess he's just bummed out about that. And also, the previous case, I'm sure, probably took a lot out of him emotionally, right? Learning all this stuff about Edgeworth and stuff. So it's probably just that. He's in a weird funk.
Yeah, that was my interpretation of it, too.
Yeah. Which is funny, because Maya is, like, you need to keep being a lawyer. I'll join you when I get back. And he's like, nope. Like, what's his plan? Is he just going to literally not do any work for, like, the next, like, year until she gets back? Like, what? Anyway, he's depressed. But then the cutest character in the entire goddamn game shows up in his office. And is like, and she's like, you gotta help me. And he's like, who is this? And she shows up, and she's wearing a scientist costume. She's literally 16 years old. She's a tiny fucking baby. And she's real dumb.
And she looks just like Maya.
She looks a lot like Maya, which is weird. I will go ahead and spoil it. There's not some kind of weird clone doppelganger thing happening.
Okay, cool. It's just like, it's just a similarity. It's like how Maddie Ferguson looks just like Laura Palmer.
Exactly. The fact that we'll find out later. There's a lot of parallels between this girl and her sister and Mia and Maya. It is just a thematic thing. It's not like there's any plot reason for this. She shows up and she's really, really cute. And she says, you gotta help me. Someone's trial is tomorrow. And then she says, you're the famous defense attorney, Mia Fey. And Nick's like, that's not me. Mia is a girl. Unless you know something I don't. Unless you know something I don't, I am not a girl. And she's like, that makes sense. I was confused about that. Nick turns her down, says, I'm not taking on new clients. But she says, you have to help my sister. The person who's committed a murder is my sister. And that reminds Nick of Maya. And because of the similarity, it grabs at his heart, right? So she introduces herself. Her name is Emma, E-M-A, only one M, that's weird. Emma Skye. She's literally 16. She says that she's a scientific investigator, which just means that she says the same things anyone else would say, but says that it's science. She's like, look, the pin has blood on it. Thanks, science. And you're like, you just you just pointed things out. It's not science. Anyway.
Yeah, she does that a lot. She's very much the there's some gif from like Deep Space Nine or something where Janeway and some alien, what are they called? The damn Worf, Klingon. Yeah. It's Janeway and a Klingon who are just saying science over and over to each other.
Yeah, it's really funny. At one point he asks, like, who are you? What do you do? And she goes, well, legally speaking, I guess you could call me an 11th grader, in quotes. Anyway, apparently her sister stabbed someone to death, and there's a witness. So Phoenix is like, cool, this is going great already. The sister and Mia were schoolmates, which is how she knew to get Mia in the case of this situation. So you go to the detention center, and the lady in the detention center is bullying her own damn guard. So then we meet the suspect. It is Lana. Her name is Lana Skye. She is mean, and she is hot. She also looks a lot like Mia. Yes. Again, that's not going to end up mattering plot-wise. It's just a thematic thing. Also, did y'all notice there's kind of a cute parallel here where, like... Oh, sorry, we'll find out in a second. She's wearing, like, a military outfit with, like, epaulets and stuff. Turns out she's the chief prosecutor. So Nick notes the similarity, Mia is a defense attorney and has a sister named Maya. This girl is a prosecutor and has a sister named named Emma. One thing I picked up on that's interesting as well is that obviously prosecutor and defense attorney are opposites, and also Maya's whole thing is that she's a spirit medium, and Emma's whole thing is like science, right? But both of them are helping you investigate and stuff like that. So it's an interesting little parallel, which again, that's not subtle. Like Nick literally mentions this. So Lana confesses. She says, yep, I did it. She says that she already confessed officially as well. There's already a confession on record. Here's the details of the crime. It was yesterday. It was at 5:15 p.m. on the dot. It's the underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. The body was found in the trunk of her subordinate's car. There was a clear witness. She got arrested on the spot. The victim was one of the detectives. I have an interesting note here. Did y'all... Actually, I'll ask you, y'all too. Did y'all notice something interesting about the way that she explains this crime?
I mean, she's very methodical about it. She's very, like, matter-of-fact.
Yeah. But, I mean, and for the record, this is something that I teach my students in English, like, every single day. There's a certain aspect to the way that she says it that's interesting.
Oh. Yeah, it's been fucking years since I took an English class. I didn't pick up on it.
Maybe this ends up mattering, maybe it doesn't, but she discusses everything, like, extremely in passive voice. Like, she never says, I killed the person. She says, I committed the crime. Then she says, I committed the crime at this time. And then she's like, the victim was stabbed. The victim died. She doesn't say, I stabbed the victim.
Yeah.
So
She's definitely giving me vibes of I'm trying to protect someone.
Yeah. So, I don't know what the deal is, but I found that was very interesting. So I think everything she's saying is technically true, but it's giving the impression that but she didn't actually do the crime, but she's just saying sentences that make it sound like she did, right? The crime was committed. I was there. Anyway, so that's interesting.
I'll just say my interpretation of it was sort of, she also kind of gave up on, life as it exists. So, she's kind of talking passively as if, hey, it's happened, everything's over.
My life is over.
Well,
like the butts. Maybe the butts did it.
No. She seems to have, just getting it, she seems to have given up, too, with some of her testimony, so. No,
that's definitely true. And also, keep in mind, I do not remember what happens here, so this is just my conjecture.
Good catch. Though,
yeah. So she says that the victim was a detective, and because of that, the police department is going to be trying extra hard to get her. Also, Lana has a hand injury. She literally just grabs her hand in a certain way, and then it's like wrapped up in gauze. And Phoenix is like, "Your hand's wrapped up." She's like, "Oh yeah, this is a cut from when I stabbed the guy." And you're like, "Good lord, that's a lot." So anyway, then you ask her about her history with Mia. You talk about how they're... Actually, this is a memorable moment. I'll do it later. You talk to her about some stuff that I think doesn't matter, and then eventually she says, "Yeah, I admitted my guilt, so GTFO." Then Emma says, "You're so selfish. Don't you care about your sister? I say you didn't do it. So how are you going to abandon me like this?" And Solana's like, "Okay, fine. I guess I'll let you defend me since my sister thinks I didn't do it, despite me literally just telling you I did it." Emma then tells you that Lana used to be nice and likable, but something changed at some point in the past. Probably 2 years ago. I mean, what? So at the crime scene, you're at the crime scene. Again, it is an underground parking garage underneath the prosecutor's department, prosecutor's office. So there's people still there investigating. Emma goes, "Hey, good work, everyone, lol," because she wants to be a prosecutor later.
I have a quick question. Did they say what the victim was, like what their profession was yet? I forget.
Yes, the victim is...
They're a detective.
Just a detective, yeah.
So, I was freaking out that this was going to be Gumshoe.
Oh god, that would have been awful. That would have destroyed my heart.
I was like, please don't let it be Gumshoe. I will actually I will not play this game if it's fucking Detective
I was going to
Gumshoe.
say, I would have stopped playing too. I don't think
I needed my DS against
the
wall. I will tell you one thing, that so far in the 3 games I've played, the game never does that. They never...
It killed Mia!
Right, I mean other than right at the beginning of the first game.
Okay,
but in the next 3 games at least, if you ever have a character that you just love, you never have anything bad happen to them.
I'm so glad that Phoenix Wright is not the Game of Thrones of
they
lawyer video
don't do that shit. Yet. Maybe they do it in the later games, who knows. If you want people that you have grown to love to either be murdered or commit murders, play Danganronpa.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we're playing Phoenix Wright then.
every case is like, oh no, my favorite character got killed, and then after you do the investigation, you're like, oh no, my other favorite character was the killer. God damn it. Yeah. Anyway, this game goes pretty nice. Goes pretty soft on your heart. So anyway, so then a cowboy shows up.
Yeah. Fucking out of nowhere. He looks like he's probably voiced by Matt Mercer.
Yeah, so a literal cowboy. We're talking like spurs, like blue jean jacket.
Talking about dogies and partners.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to say, it's high noon. Like at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet, wearing a cowboy hat. I guess this guy has just decided that he is going to be a cowboy all the time. He's cowboy.
He likes to pretend. Don't judge him. He likes to make believe.
And I guess
there's nothing wrong with that.
His job is just like, okay, you talk in cowboy metaphors all the time. This is fine. So his name is Mr. Marshall. He looks like a cowboy. He only talks in cowboy like literally every single sentence. I didn't take any screenshots of him for MMs. I hope someone else did though. If not, we'll get some next time because like every single sentence is like he instead of saying a normal sentence, he says it in a cowboy way. Anyway, I think he's the gumshoe of this case or something. So he says GTFO. There is a glass-walled security room, interestingly, in this parking garage. So that's just an interesting thing to say. There's like a raised up in the air room that's glass-walled. Nick finds a wallet. He's like, hey, a wallet. I should turn this in as evidence to the cops. But Emma says, you can't just give it to the cops. Let's be scientific about this. Just put it in your pocket. So, according to her, science is when you steal things. And,
yes. Science is a lot of things to her.
So Nick doesn't give the evidence to the police. He just takes it. Then you see the power of the Nintendo DS game console. This chapter has a new feature. All of your evidence is actually a 3D model, and you can investigate it. Kind of like in like Resident Evil. You can like rotate the 3D object and click on it. It's cool. So you take out the wallet, and if you click on the wallet just right, the wallet opens, and you take out the ID. It's the ID of some detective. Maybe you learn his name later, maybe you learn it now, whatever. I'll tell you later who it is. It's the victim. It's the ID of the victim. What's the victim's name? Goodman. That's right.
Yes.
Something Goodman, which is pretty funny. Played by John Goodman, of course.
Obviously.
So you try to click on the car, and the cowboy doesn't let us look at the car, but he does say, hey, if you want to know who the car belongs to, go to this place. So you try to leave, and another extremely hot lady shows up. Motherfucker.
There's so many hot ladies in this game.
She's really hot. Also, she's extremely boobing out.
Yeah,
she's
she is.
very nicely dressed. She's selling bento boxes. She's like, hey, you want to... It kind of makes me think about like how like a lot of companies, especially like tech companies nowadays, will have like food trucks that go to their parking lots during lunchtime. Like the food trucks that specifically service businesses. So I guess she just like comes here every day and sells bento boxes to the people who work there. She's the witness. She also keeps saying that she used to be the cough-up queen.
Which is disgusting.
Well, they keep playing this for laughs, right? Like, cough up.
Yeah.
Like she gives you food and you throw it up. But, like, I mean, obviously, Francesca, you already know this. Eli, do you see what the alternate meaning of this probably is?
Oh, yeah, like coughing up information or coughing up...
Yeah, she's probably like an interrogator or something, right?
Yeah.
Later, I'll just go ahead and spoil it. Later, we do find out that she used to be a homicide detective.
She was a detective, yeah.
We don't learn about the thing that Eli just predicted, but I do think that you're right. Yeah, she used to be specifically like really good at playing bad cop and getting people to cough up the whatever, right?
The infos.
Yeah. So that'll probably show up.
Deeds.
That'll probably show up next week. But none of the characters pick up on that. So she just keeps saying, I used to be the cough-up queen, and they're like, oh, I don't want to eat this bento box. Also, whenever she likes someone and is being nice, she offers you a really tasty meal, and then if she doesn't like you, she'll be like, hey, you want to eat this? And it's something disgusting.
Just like ketchup on a bed of rice.
Yeah. Anyway, her name is Angel Star, and again, she's very hot. She says... that yesterday was sort of an event we'll learn more about later. They were giving an award for King of the Prosecutors. She hates prosecutors, it turns out.
No motive whatsoever for...
Yep, none at all. Turns out the one whose car had the body in it was the one who won, aka the best prosecutor. So yesterday there was an award. The best prosecutor got the best prosecutor award, and later the dead body was found in his trunk, though he's not the one who did it. Also, I keep saying he. Whatever, we'll find out in a second. She then talks about the murder. Again, I noticed, maybe she's just being poetic, but she kept talking about the sound of the knife and beat of the heart or whatever, so maybe she just heard the crime, but maybe not.
She seems pretty suspicious to me.
I mean, she's definitely suspicious. She also knows the chief prosecutor's name. They keep doing this thing where, like, Phoenix keeps not knowing who people are because he's the player avatar, right? But they're like, you're a lawyer. How can you not know the name of the chief prosecutor? You're a lawyer. How can you not know the name of the chief whatever? Chief of police, right? It's pretty funny. Anyway, she comes here every day to sell lunches, and her BF is the security guy. So she comes here to see her boyfriend and sell lunches. Next, we go to the High Prosecutor's office. It's very fancy. And then we find out who the High Prosecutor is. The person who won the big award yesterday. It's Edgeworth.
Yes.
Emma loses her bonkers.
She just flips the fuck out. She's so excited.
She's like the hugest Miles Edgeworth fanboy ever, which I think is so funny because, again, like, she's working with the guy who beat Edgeworth like 3 times. And no one cares. Like, no one ever mentions the fact that Phoenix is amazing at any point.
Yeah.
At any point do they talk about, like, wow, you're a great lawyer. Like, they're just constantly dunking on him and how he's dumb, or just forgetting who he is.
Poor Phoenix.
Yeah. Anyway, it turned out it was Edgeworth's car. It was his office. I was wondering, how did he win the Best Prosecutor award? Didn't his whole last year consist of losing to Nick a bunch of times?
Well, maybe it was really amazing up until that point. Maybe it was like the greatest wins of all time, and then, he had a few losses to Phoenix.
Or maybe in between the trials with Phoenix, he won a whole bunch of other ones. So he's got a really good record as long as he's not going against Phoenix. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's exciting. We find out that he's the prosecutor again. So it's just like old times. We're actually going up against Edgeworth. I felt like his writing, he was like a lot nicer now. He seemed like a nicer, more humble person.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he's still Edgeworth. He's still, like, pompous and brusque. But, like, he's not... I mean, he can't say, I'm the best prosecutor ever, I'm going to kick your ass, because he's not, and he won't. He has to prove his own boss's guilt, which he doesn't like. He doesn't like this at all. Let's see. Oh, apparently not only did Lana stab the victim in his car, she also stabbed the victim with his knife, which was in the trunk of the car. So he's, like, upset. He's like, is she trying to frame me? Nick said as a joke, are you sure you didn't do it? And Edgy does not think that's a funny joke. Let's see. Also, he seems upset about being given the King of Prosecutors trophy. I'm not sure why. He's like, ugh, yeah, that trophy, whatever, like, fuck off. Like, maybe that's false modesty, maybe something more. Who knows? He tells you some very important information. Yesterday was a biannual, very important day. Twice a year, they have cleaning day, which might just seem like we're cleaning the office at the prosecutor's office, but no, it's the day when you sort and file all your fucking evidence for the last 6 months. Like, I'm sure that evidence and case files have just piled up, right, in random places. So they take a day to sort everything out, put it all where it's supposed to go, and then do evidence transferal, which I guess means taking evidence from one place into maybe long-term storage or something. Also, there's a review ceremony at the police department where they review the last 6 months and also give out the King of Prosecutors award. A few important things. It takes about 30 minutes to get from the police department to the detective's office, even with light traffic. Also, we find out that Miles Edgeworth got back to the office at 5:12. Remember, the murder was at 5:15. So he shows up, he parks in the parking lot after having been halfway across town, 3 minutes before the murder. Now, he has a parking stub, which is why he knows this. He doesn't just have that amazing memory. Then the stupidest cop in the entire world shows up. Cutie pie alert. How would you describe this guy?
He's weird as fuck. His drawing style does not look like it belongs in this game.
Yeah, it's like they literally got like a different artist to draw this guy. It's extremely fucking funny.
It looks kind of like a little kid drew. like some little kid won the put your character in Phoenix Wright contest. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a super exaggerated art style, and he's constantly like running in place. Like one of his legs is halfway in the air, like he's doing like high knee marching, and he's just like flailing as his like default picture. So he shows up. His name is Meekins. He says, "My name is Meekins." Yes. He's very meek.
He came up for like 2 lines, and then he just disappeared into the ether.
Yep.
And I feel like he'll come back, but right now I'm just like, what the fuck was up with that?
Oh yeah, well, fun fact for everybody, because of a little bit of a miscommunication that I apologize for, and I will make sure to make it more clear next time.
Oh yeah.
Eli didn't quite play to our stopping point, so
Whoops.
Yes, Eli, you're
so
right.
He does come back.
Well, Meekins doesn't come back, like he doesn't show up, but he does become important, yes, in the part that you didn't play. So anyway, he has some kind of package. He's like, "Hey, Edgeworth, I've got the package you wanted. It's the important stuff relating to the case." No, he doesn't say that. He says, "I've got a package for you from the police department that you need to look at." And Edgeworth is like, "Does this have to do with the case I'm currently working on?" And he's like, "No." And Edgeworth is like, "Well, I specifically told them, don't give me anything that isn't related to the case because I'm very busy with this case, like GTFO." So he doesn't even look at it. So Meekins just runs off. He's like, but they told me to give it to you. And Edgeworth just is mean to him, and he slinks off. So that's that. So then you go to the police department, which when we find out, even with light traffic, takes about 30 minutes to get there. We see a weird dancing blue thing called the Blue Badger. It was mentioned in some flavor text that was optional last time. It's the new mascot for the police station, or at least they're trying to make it happen. They're trying to make this new mascot be their thing. Gumshoe is sitting there dancing. He's doing the dance that the Blue Badger does, because again, this game has animation now. Not of Gumshoe. We don't get to see Gumshoe dancing. We only see the Blue Badger dancing. Let's see. So I'm going to skim through this stuff a little bit because it comes back more later. But basically, a lot of weird stuff is happening at the police station. We don't really get it. Basically, like the last 2 months, all kinds of weird stuff has been happening. Ever since Edgeworth's case, actually. There's been lots of rumors and negativity. People think that Edgeworth is only prosecuting his own boss because he wants her spot. And he's like, no, that's not why. No one else wanted to do it. And also, apparently, there's been all these rumors, again, and negativity about people being up to something. All of these rumors circle around Edgeworth and circle around Lana Skye, that there's something secretive that nobody knows about. In addition, the police are up to something as well, not just the prosecutor, but the police are up to something. Because of this new case being weird, they said, okay, only high-ranking officers are allowed to do anything on this case. No one of lower rank is involved. So Gumshoe is not on the case. He's just hanging out. He's just a guy. He's not the detective for this case. And that's why Marshall is in charge. Marshall is a patrolman. He's not a detective. So it's weird that he would be in charge. Find out the idea... Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I'll
follow up afterwards. I was just going to say, I can give a little bit of context to some of the weirdness that's going around. So in the first 2 cases, we kind of found out that there was this kind of perception of corruption among the justice system, and a lot of people lost faith in the overall justice system. And there was sort of kind of a rebuilding that was happening. And, you had people try to get people to have more faith in just the legal system in general at the time. But, things were a little bit rocky. We're coming off the 4th case where we had one prosecutor who may or may not have falsified evidence at some point, being convicted for a crime. Well, not convicted, but, appearing in trial for, potentially murdering someone. And then ultimately finding out that one of, another prosecutor who's also extremely well respected, just like Edgeworth, ends up being the one who...
Yep.
yeah, who committed a murder in that case. And so you have, like, all of the kind of good faith efforts that have been made in, like, the past early cases are basically undone and then some, based on that last case and a lot of other... And, and now this recent case where you have the chief prosecutor who's now, being charged for murder. I mean... Pretty much every single prosecutor has been
what this reminds me
charged
of?
at this point.
You know what it reminds me of? And not only that, but like in the first case, at the end of the first case, the defense attorney, Mia Fey, gets murdered. And then at one point they even think that Phoenix Wright did it. So now the defense attorney is on trial for murder. There's just so much going on. And it you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of John Wick. Because in John Wick, it seems, as you watch more and more of the movies, it seems like these are all assassins, right? But it seems like all they do is assassinate each other.
I need to watch John Wick sometime.
Oh my god, you will love them. They're fantastic. But yeah, so
I've heard they're really good movies.
It's this world of prosecutors and defense attorneys where the only one committing crimes is other prosecutors and defense attorneys. Which is... Or it's all just them sorting out their own shit. And it's like, do these people actually do anything, like, useful for society? Or do they just have to fight each other because of their own corruption?
Yes.
But yeah, it's pretty funny. But I will note one thing, that is... Everything you just said is very, very true. But to expand it a little bit, that's all issues with the prosecuting office and the prosecution, not with the police. So now we're finding that there's also weird stuff in the police, and the fact that the police and the prosecution are different things is an important part of this case. So yeah, basically there's just all kinds of corruption and awfulness, right? So anyway, anything else? Oh right, the victim was Bruce Goodman. Bruce Goodman should have been at the police department on account of the evidence transferal. He should have been pushing papers all day, right? But for some reason he was called over to the detective's office by Lana. That's what. Now Lana didn't say that, but everyone's saying that. Everyone's saying that Lana told him, "Hey, get over here," and then I guess she killed him. Right? One more little thing. This will be important later, I guess. Gumshoe made the Blue Badger statue. You can wheel it around. It's on a little cart. Also, there's no switch. It just dances until the batteries run out. Again, probably going to be important. Back to the crime scene. We find out that Angel has another boyfriend in criminal affairs. Later we find out she has 3 more boyfriends.
She has too many boyfriends.
According to the marshal, the victim and suspect had almost nothing in common. The only thing they ever had in common was that they worked on a case together a couple years ago. That probably won't come back. So it's like, why would she kill this person, Phoenix asks, why is a patrolman in charge of the cowboy? And he goes, oh, well, they're just short on hands. All hands. We need as many people as we can to help with this case, so there was no one to do it, so they sent me here to be in charge. And you're thinking, what about Gumshoe? And then somebody, I forget who, maybe Nick, maybe Emma, says maybe it's because of Gumshoe's connection to Edgeworth. So my theory here is everybody who has anything to do with Edgeworth is off this case. Because of the suspicion around Edgeworth, because clearly the victim, the perpetrator, tried to frame Edgeworth. I mean, we already see that happening. You find a phone, you hit the redial button, and I'll skip past it. A bunch of weird shenanigans happens, but long story short, when you hit the redial button on the phone that you find, Emma's phone rings. So it turns out this is Lana's phone. So it turns out that last night, right as the murder occurred, like almost right at the murder time, Lana called her sister, but only called her for a few seconds, and she didn't say anything. She just called for a second and then she hung up. Let's see. I already told you that part. Final thing before the trial. We find a note at the crime scene, and it was the reason we can investigate shit now is because Gumshoe gave us a letter to show to Marshall.
Yes.
We find a note. It says Goodman on the top, so we know it's one of his little sticky notes. And it says 6-6-75, and it says 12/2.
Is that a 5 or an S? Because in the text it said S.
Oh, really? Okay, well, cool. 6-7S. As we find
it
out
could
later...
be 5. It does look like a 5.
Well, we'll find out later in the part that you didn't play that it doesn't matter.
Cool.
But yeah, my note said 5, so who cares? Whatever. So, we don't have a lot to go on. We have a client who confesses the crime. We have a witness who witnessed the crime. But there is some weird stuff happening here and there, and in typical Phoenix fashion, we're just going to believe in our client no matter what. Before the trial, Lana says, remember Phoenix, a defense attorney should never believe your client. Don't forget that they're called to trial because they're suspected of wrongdoing. That's why they're called to trial. And Nick says, you remind me a lot of Mia. There's one difference. You're not a defense attorney. Which I thought was a really good line.
Yeah.
So, this first part of the trial is all investigating Angel. The judge says, hey Angel, come to the stand. And she immediately starts giving everybody lunches. And then we have to wait for the judge to finish eating.
Oh my god, yes.
Before we can actually do the trial. It's very funny. This is when we learned that 2 years ago, they keep saying that. Oh wait, actually that's the first time they say it, never mind. Anyway, 2 years ago, turns out Angel used to be a first-rate homicide detective. She shares the floor plan of the crime scene. The parking lot has 2 sections. There's A block and B block. A block is where the prosecutor's office personnel park. B block is for visitors and clients. There's a chain link fence between them, so that you can't park in the wrong section. The crime took place in A block. The judge says, "Did you see the very moment of the crime?" She says, "Yes, and I also apprehended the suspect." So here's her testimony. She's on her way to deliver lunch to her BF. She senses something through the wire fence, just like she felt like something was going on. She looks through the fence and she sees the suspect standing next to the car. She's around 30 feet away. She's holding a knife in her right hand, and then she thrusts the tip of the knife into Goodman's chest. She's 30 feet away. I already said that. So you press her statements a bunch, and she ends up admitting that she believes all prosecutors are awful worms. When she says that, even though you agree, you accuse her of being a biased witness. So when you accuse her of this, she shows you a photo that she took on instinct. She says, right after the crime happened, I went ahead and just took a photo. Which, that makes sense. It's Lana. She's not holding the knife, because it is after the crime, not at the moment of the crime, but she does seem to have a blood splatter on her coat, though it's a black and white photograph. Also, she's wearing gloves. Now, there's this whole weird thing here where Angel says that the gloves proves that it was a premeditated murder. Nick is like, okay, but if it's premeditated murder, why would she not have a murder weapon? Why did she just get a murder weapon out of the car's trunk? You think you would plan that ahead if you're planning ahead a murder. Funny enough, everyone, Edward, the judge, Phoenix, everyone insists, why does it matter if murder is premeditated? What matters is whether she did the murder. But Angel insists that this is important for some reason. So anyway, Angel also feels like there's something red on Lana. It's like she thinks that Lana had red on her, like maybe she's wearing a muffler.
It's like Shaun of the Dead. You've got red on you.
Yeah. More on that later. Anyway, Angel apprehended the murder, and then you're like, wait, how did you climb over a chain link fence? How were you able to catch the murderer? That seems like it would have been too hard. You wouldn't have had enough time. Then she says that she actually saw Lana try to make a phone call on a payphone. So this is new information. Apparently, Lana murders the person and then goes to the nearby payphone in the garage, which is behind a partition, and tries to make a phone call. But it's out of order, which is true. Turned out it's out of order that day. So then she uses her cell phone, and that's when she muttered the phrase, muffler. And that's why Angel's like, oh, that must have been why I thought she was wearing a muffler. So there's this whole thing where, was she wearing a muffler? Was she not wearing a muffler? Why did she say the word muffler on the phone? That's weird. After a bunch of shenanigans that I will skip past, you prove the key point. Angel had to have... Angel was not where she said she was. She was not in Lot B. She had to have been in the security room. That's the only way she could have seen what she just saw, because of positioning and line of sight. But why would she lie? Like, what would it matter if she was in the security room? She could have just said the whole story she just said, but she's in the security room. But then, in this part, I did not figure out. I had to just click around. Phoenix was smarter than me here. It's because if she was in the security room, it would have taken her a lot longer to get to the murder scene. So now she tells the truth. Yes, I was up there. Yes, I had to exit the security room, go down like a hallway, open a door, go down another hallway, do some shenanigans, loop around, and then get to Lot B, and then, which is where I took the photo, and then climb the fence. It actually took like 5 minutes. Nick is like, yo, 5 minutes is a super long time. You can do a lot in 5 minutes. Why on earth would a killer murder someone and then hang around for 5 minutes? Also, the witness clearly has a grudge against the defendant and a huge gap in your story. So, like, you haven't proven her wrong, but you've proven that she's hells of fishy. You know, she's sus. So you're like, well, Edgeworth, bring up your next witness. And Edgeworth's like, I don't have another witness. I thought we were good. He overestimated his witness. But then she says, objection, I have decisive evidence. And you're like, okay. The defendant's... Honestly, I'm going to skip all this. This is dumb. There's one more little turnaround, right? She has decisive evidence. She has the shoe. She has Lana's shoe. It has blood on it, and then you're like, oh, actually,
I think it's Goodman's shoe.
There actually is a very important thing here. This is a person on the stand introducing new evidence. There's a big discussion about whether or not this is legal evidence. Turns out there's some rules about this. And if you think about it, in the past, every time there's been some last-minute evidence, it's always been like Edgeworth presenting it. Edgeworth, the prosecuting attorney. It turns out that all evidence has to be registered at the start of a case. And it has to be relevant, to the... You gotta get your shit checked out, right? So you can't just you can't just be on the witness stand and then be like, here's new evidence. But because of a couple of things, because of the fact that it is such a big deal, it's the person's blood. I forget who says what, but long story short, the judge says, you know what, I'm going to allow this for reasons that I think are relatively reasonable. But that's some important information. Anyway, then you find out that, like, but wouldn't there be bloody footprints? Oh, no, she knocked over an oil drum with water, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, it ends with Nick showing that photograph that she showed earlier. And what do we learn? There was something stuffed into the muffler of the car. The thing that we probably had already all figured out because we have brains is that the repeated references to a muffler isn't muffler the fashion item, but muffler the muffler of the car. Once we see that there's an item in the muffler, the judge says, okay, 30-minute break. Someone go get that freaking item out of the muffler. We'll reconvene. Also,
and I thought, stop here.
Yeah, you thought into the game, yeah.
Because I'm a dumb.
No, you're not a dumb. It's fine. I forgot to mention that the trial has 2 parts. Anyway, one fun fact here is, my prediction here is that when Lana called her sister, she was trying to say, like, hey, sister, there's an important item in the muffler. Or something like that. I don't know, whatever. Which also is a parallel to the original case. Remember Mia, before she got murdered, she called Maya to tell her there's an important piece of evidence inside of the clock.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, look at that. That's cute.
Bringing it around.
Yeah, bringing it around town. Anyway, so, trial 2. I'll try to make this I'll try to explain not just what happens, but, like, why it matters. That way Eli can not be totally confused. So, the only evidence they have is whatever was in the muffler, which also was cloth, by the way. Marshall is there. He says something about a scarf. He keeps talking about how Lana's wearing a scarf, and Emma is like, no, dude, muffler doesn't mean scarf. Muffler means exhaust pipe. We've been over this. I know you missed it, but, like, we just talked about this. But then Marshall says, no, Lana was wearing a muffler, as in the fashion item, around her neck earlier that day. And you're like, what? And then Phoenix realizes, yeah, that is an item that or everyone realizes that is an item she would often wear as part of her wardrobe. As someone with a very good red scarf, I agree. So you get back to trial 2. So you start the second half of the trial. Edgeworth is losing his bonkers. He's just going nuts. We don't know why. He's just like, the judge is like, hey, Edgeworth, are we ready to start the trial? And it pans over to him, and he's just going insane. We don't know why, but we're about to find out. Then, all of a sudden, a random new character shows up. He looks extremely powerful. I don't know what I mean by that. He's big. He looks like buff Gendo Ikari. He talks, he calls the judge Udgy. He calls Miles edgy. He calls everybody by a pet name. He kind of talks like a nice uncle, like maybe has a British accent or something. He's like, oh, well, no. He talks like maybe like Gatsby from Great Gatsby. He's like, oh, good show, old chap, that kind of stuff. So he's the chief of police, and his name is Damon Gant. Again, very genial, nice, but also very imposing guy. He commands the courtroom. He's almost like the prosecutor from the previous case, who, the one who ended up being the murderer. So anyway, the judge says, oh, hey, Damon Gant, it's been 2 years since you last came into this courtroom. So there's a lot of references to something happening 2 years ago. Just throwing that out there. So Gant says that Gant's like, hey, Edgeworth, he's having a rough time, so I'm here to help. Because obviously this guy sucks and can't be a good prosecutor. Sorry. He goes, hey, I got the... So Eli, you're going to fucking scream. So there was this whole thing about a muffler, right? And eventually you find out that muffler doesn't mean a fashion item, but actually means the muffler of a car. Turns out the thing inside the muffler of the car was a muffler.
The muffler? Yeah. I had a feeling that was going to happen.
It's super good. I love it.
It's the muffler.
Also, inside the muffler is a switchblade.
Is another muffler.
It's a switchblade. It's
mufflers all the way
down. Turns out that it's a special knife called a muffler switchblade. No, it's a tiny model of a car. And that tiny model of a car has a muffler, and inside of that muffler...
The muffler? Yeah, it's mufflers all the way down.
The donut, exactly. The donut hole was actually a tiny donut. With another hole inside it. Anyway, so Edgeworth is pissed. Like, he's mad that Gant is here. He's got a weird relationship here. We don't know what's going on. He's like, Gant... what kind of outfit are you running? How could you miss such an important piece of evidence? How could your people investigating this crime be so shitty? Gant says, buddy, it says here on this document about the case that you're in charge. So really, any problems that happen are your fault. And Edgy says something like, but on the day of the crime I was ... And we don't know what he's about to say. Gant is like, yeah, I get it. You just got a big award. You probably had a big head and weren't really thinking straight because you got a big award. Of course, something else is going on. We don't know what it is. Gant is just really mean to Edgeworth. He's just negging him, saying he sucks. Nick opens the knife, and the edge of the knife is broken off, but does have blood on it. Then there's this very interesting thing. Gant testifies, but most of his testimony is saying, I can't tell you about this, because there's something very secret and classified happening at the police station. There's a very secret, classified investigation that's happening, and because it's so secret, I unfortunately cannot tell you what it is unless it ends up being relevant to this case. So he says the knife is special, but I can't say why. The police department was in disarray, but I can't say why. And that's it. So you look at the knife, and the knife says SL-9, and then it says 2. And if we recall, DL6, that looks like a case number, right? SL9. Yeah. You cross-examine Gant. He does give you some useful info if you press everything, but again, he mostly says this is secret. So you have to get 3 pieces of evidence. First, the note. At this point, Phoenix is like, the only thing I can do is to present the one piece of evidence that I haven't done anything yet because it's been stumping me all along. Turns out, yes, it's the note. The note was upside down. That's why it doesn't matter if it was an S or a 5. Well, it was S. It didn't say 6-75 or 7S. It said SL-9.
9. Okay.
And the 2 might have been, and then it said 12-2. Well, SL-9-2, right? So anyway, turns out the knife was evidence for a 2-year-old... Oh, there's 2 years again. The knife was evidence for a murder that happened 2 years ago. But it was an open and shut case. Already been figured out. That knife was stolen that day from the evidence room. The day of the murder. Yesterday. At this point, you can press Grant, and he admits the big twist. Turns out the big thing that happened that day, the big reason why the police department was in such a disarray, was that there was another murder on the same day in the police department. And Gant is very genial. He's like, maybe you could help with this. And Nick's like, I can help if you share your evidence. And Gant says, okay, fine, I'll tell you one thing. Two things. First of all, they quote unquote just apprehended the suspect. That's weird. They don't follow up on that, but apparently they just apprehended the suspect in this murder. Anyway, the crime was in the evidence room. So, because there was a murder, because it was in the evidence room, because we have a knife that was in our murder that was the evidence from the evidence room that had gotten stolen, and also because of, I think, like one or two more things that I forgot to write down, because who cares? You've now proved that the two murders are connected. So Gant explains. He says, I still won't say the name of the victim. Nick says, okay, tell me the ID number of the victim. And I don't know why Gant goes for this. I guess he's just like, yeah, sure, it's not going to help you. ID numbers are secret. Only our police database has the ID numbers. Sure, I'll tell you. The ID number is like 28496, whatever. Anyway, you pull out your evidence and you're like, oh my gosh, that's on the ID card I have. That's Bruce Goodman's ID. What the hell? Everyone's extremely confused. Bruce Goodman apparently was murdered. Oh, also, I didn't write this down, really. The murder was at 5:15 p.m. So it seems like the same person got murdered in two different places at the exact same time.
Oh, okay.
So the opening animation wasn't just being cool looking. There's a double murder, but again, the double murder is weird enough, but double murder with the same victim? What the hell? So everyone is confused, but Miles Edgeworth is so pissed. And this is where the main dramatic, I think, thing happens here. Edgeworth is like, why was I not informed of this? Why the hell was I not informed of this very important information? He says, Judge, the police department has made a grave error. Gant says, actually, buddy, you're the one who made a grave error. Remember that file Meekin showed up with earlier? That was the file. That was the file with all the information about the second murder. They sent it to Edgeworth, but he rejected it. So it is, in fact, Edgeworth who made the grave error. Because, of course, Meekin said it has nothing to do with this murder, because as far as Meekins knew, it didn't. But
yeah. So
Edgeworth made a huge mistake here. And then Edgeworth is like, you could have given us the evidence file at the beginning of the case. Like, you could have showed up earlier and given this to us. And then Gant switches animations. You know that thing that characters do a lot where they switch from, like, they're a happy, fun character to, like, now they're being sinister. Maybe they're a villain.
Oh, yeah.
What's her name? Angel did that earlier as well. He puts on his sinister face and he says, if I had showed up earlier to put the report as part of the trial, you wouldn't have been able to because the report wasn't on the evidence list. You turned in the evidence list. The report wasn't included, so I couldn't add that to the trial.
Yeah.
So just every single thing is making Edgeworth look really, really bad here. And I feel really, really bad for the guy, obviously. And it seems like Gant's like doing it on purpose. Like Gant seems to be going out of his way to like kick Edgeworth's ass. Again, there's some weird power dynamics going on here. We don't know what's going on. Also, remember, just important plot points. Edgeworth is, in fact, the person that seemed to have been framed in this case. It didn't work, but remember, his car, his knife. So it's weird shit. At this point, judge says, I don't think there's ever been an error this serious in the history of the court. Edgeworth says, give me one more day. Give me one more day to figure out this case. Judge says, okay. That's where we're at. That's the end. Okay. So there's now a double murder. There's now a new character who's the chief of police. Edgeworth done goofed. And now we're going to have to do a lot of investigation. And also, if we remember the last case involved solving a murder that took place now and also 15 years ago. So maybe there's 2 murders, but also a different murder from 2 years ago. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, clearly.
A whole lot going on here. So that's all I've got. So what are some memorable moments?
Emma at one point said something about Lana being attracted to Mia.
Yeah, I skipped past that part earlier.
I was super excited about, and then she's like, oh no, to her intellect, and I'm just like, wow, thanks for the queer baiting, Phoenix Wright. Didn't expect that of you, but...
I think the joke here is that Emma is dumb. Because...
and I mean, very true.
Because yes. Emma literally says, like, yeah, while they were, because my sister was at the top of her class, that's why Mia was attracted to her. And Phoenix even goes, what? Attracted to her? And then Emma's like, ... intellectual attraction. I think, it's like when the newspapers are like, look at these 2 gals being pals.
Okay, yeah, I can accept it that way.
That's my headcanon. I think that they're gay and that they love each other.
Yeah.
Or were gay. One of them's dead now.
Yeah.
What else you got?
So I showed the attorney badge to Gumshoe, and I really liked his reaction. He says, you show this to me every time we meet.
That was one of mine.
Yeah, it's great. Let's see. As someone who has lived in Texas for over a decade, I can attest to the accuracy of this statement that Marshall made, which is, you calling me out, they shoot you for that in Texas.
Yeah.
He said something else about, I think it was lying. He was like, are you lying? Because they'll shoot you for that in Texas. And I'm like, this guy is 100% from fucking Texas. Like, he is the most believable character in this game.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Also, it's like, what's funny is that in the game that we're currently playing, don't get me wrong, it's weird that there's a cowboy, but not like unimaginably weird. Like, you get some weirdos in Texas, some people definitely. But the thing is, in the original game, this took place in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's even weirder ridiculous to imagine the Japanese character in Japan dressing up like this.
It's weird, like, in Japan, Maya would probably be, like, normal. That's, like, just an everyday thing that she's showing up. And then there's this weird cowboy who comes along later. Whereas in the U.S., Maya's the weird one, because she's got all this, like, Eastern garb on. And she's a medium and that sort of thing. And into Japanese spirituality. And then... this fucking guy from Texas is here in California. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, that reminds me of one of my memorable moments. Speaking of funny localization stuff, when the angel shows up, I forget when she says this, but she's explaining who she is and how she always shows up to sell these, like, she's basically selling, like, bento boxes. She says how she sells bentos every day, and she goes, yeah, I only import the freshest lunches from the Far East. For some reason, they're really popular here. That had to have just been completely made up by the localizers, right?
Yeah.
Why this lady would be selling Japanese lunch staples in California. And they make a couple of other jokes about that, about how it's super weird that all these, like, what all these people eat all the time is sushi and rice balls and such.
Yeah. They're jelly donuts. Delicious jelly donuts.
Easy.
I love jelly donuts.
Easier to change the writing than to change the graphics.
True.
So that's really good. Let's see. What do I have? One minor thing. When you're in Edgeworth's office, one fun, weird thing is that... wait, is it Edgeworth's office? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, when you're in Edgeworth's office, in the background is totally a Steel Samurai doll. They don't comment on it. It's not important or anything, but it's just like, oh, everyone loves Steel Samurai, even someone as like serious and cool as Miles Edgeworth. Also, I think Emma has a pink princess ringtone. So I think it's really cute how this one case that was kind of the filler case in the game also just keeps showing up as like background world building stuff. It's really cute.
Yeah.
Second thing, when they were giving out the awards yesterday at the award show, Gumshoe got an award for diligence. He's the most diligent, which totally is like that's totally like most improved or like participation trophy, right? He's like, good job, buddy, you tried your best.
Yeah. You worked hard.
Francesco, what do you got?
So in my notes I have Dunkaroos listed like 3 times in caps.
What?
Dunkaroos.
Dunkaroos.
That's something that the cowboy kept saying, I think.
So not the so Emma has a thing for, I think in the game they call them snackaroos, but they're really just Dunkaroos.
Okay.
Which are those
they were cookies shaped like kangaroos that you could dunk in icing.
Exactly.
Wow, I don't know any of this.
Really? I used to eat Dunkaroos like fucking crazy when I was a kid.
I have not had
they come
Dunkaroos.
they come with a little packet of icing, and it's sort of like a make your own Oreo.
Yeah, they're really delicious, but for some reason I think when you're younger they're even more delicious than when you're an adult. So I don't know. I remember when I first saw that, it just brought me back to my childhood. So.
That's cute. I love that.
Yeah.
I said earlier, sorry, you share some more. I only have one more, so you share some more.
Yeah, sure. So a few other ones. Edgeworth's office was great. Actually, like seeing the office, and if you inspect a lot of the stuff there, you'll get some more backstory into kind of like what kind of like what he has, and just some of the context there. A few of my favorites was the chess set.
Yes.
Where you have a bunch of pieces surrounding a particularly sharp-haired, like knight. So, which I kind of interpret as, Edgeworth trying to figure out how to basically break Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of red chess pieces that totally represent Edgeworth, and they're all surrounding and coming in and pointing their weapons at a blue chess piece, which looks like Phoenix Wright.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's super good.
Now, this might be it's not really a spoiler, but I just don't remember when I actually saw the reference to it, so it might come a little bit later. But again, not really a big spoiler. But there's that Steel Samurai doll that you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
And I believe there's a reference to the... Oh, shoot, why am I blanking on her name? Old Bag from the last case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or from the 2 cases ago. She was so enamored with Edgeworth that she sent that to him as a, as a gift.
That's great. I love that.
I actually, now that I think about it, that might actually come from the Edgeworth spinoff, where you get that same office, and if Edgeworth inspects it, he mentions that he got it from,
That's wild that
Bag.
they would put that in there and then explain it in a different game. That's super cool. Also, it's cute that he would have put that present. He would have displayed that gift. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because he seemed really, really annoyed by Old Bag.
Yeah. Maybe he's a little bit of a softie.
And when he describes it, he says something to the effect of, "I hope I never remember that woman and that case," which also I find to be really, really funny.
No, that's really good.
But,
yeah. Edward is just such an interesting character.
He is.
You get the feeling that he puts on this facade of being so together, but behind the scenes, obviously he's got lots of emotions, and I would say lots of insecurities, as we see with his chess set, right? Yeah, it's good stuff. One of my thingies, I actually did get one screenshot of the cowboy. I didn't take more because I would have been taking 10 billion, because everything he says is hilarious. The game accidentally has a little bit of socio-political commentary. In a lot of places when the cowboy's talking, but at one point he's like talking about how he's got to go do a police investigation and you've got to spread everyone out and uncover everything and sort of claim the crime scene for yourself by investigating it. So he's like, just like the old settlers. And then Emma is like writing down her notes in her little notebook, and she's like, note to self, police investigations are like settling land. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of layers to that statement. Cops, settlers, settler colonialism, police state.
Yeah.
And then at one point, shortly before or after that, Marshall goes... Again, he's just talking about the idea of, like... I'm not even really sure. I should have taken more screenshots, but I think it's in the same context of being a cop, being a settler, and fulfilling your sort of natural divine right as of getting the killer. Anyway, and he goes, manifest destiny. Let's have a hootenanny. And I'm like, buddy, there is so much happening right now. So yeah, he's both hilarious and extremely political at the same time. I love him. And that is all of mine. Any more from you, Francesca?
No, those are my key points.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh wait, sorry. Hold on. As I said that, I remembered one more that I saved.
Damn it, Francesco!
Yeah, no, I thought this one was kind of cool. The we talked about the whole muffler, like car muffler versus scarf. So, you know, in English, muffler is like a type of scarf. And, you know, it's not really something I think is very typical for someone to say. Usually people just say, oh, you're wearing a scarf. You know, unless you're shopping for...
What's a muffler?
Yeah. But in Japanese, I think the word for scarf and muffler are the same.
Yes.
And so there's a lot
they just
more...
say mafura.
Exactly. And so there's a lot more kind of wordplay between, you know, like it makes more sense for those two things to be confused. So I think they did a good job given kind of what they were working with, you know, from just a wordplay perspective. But I think that it'd do a little bit of juggling to get that kind of muffler scarf thing to, you know, to actually fit.
Well, for the 10th time, shout out to Alexander O. Smith.
Yeah.
And perhaps the rest of his team if there were other localizers as well. A lot of really... You know, it's interesting. Most of the time... Look, I mean, localization is always important in any game, of course. No disrespect to any localizers. But, like, most of the time, localization is important because of characters and themes and emotions, right? But in a game that's a mystery game, a murder mystery game, it's more than that. Because every single word and idea also has to be right for the puzzle to work, right? For it all to fit together properly, for the mystery. Because it's interactive, you know, you're not just learning about these characters, you're moving through them. The puzzle pieces have to fit together, and the words and what people call things, whether people are lying or not lying, things having double meanings, has a practical meaning in addition to an emotional or thematic meaning. So, like, extra hard for a translator. Like, it has to all fit. This meticulously put together situation has to still be meticulously put together. A little trappy trick of a story while still having fun and characterization and emotions and all that stuff. So yeah, super super fucking cool. And like being like muffler and muffler, right? Who friggin' knows? Yeah. So that is it for the week. Any predictions, Eli?
I don't know. There's
Do you think the lady did it?
I think Angel Star is connected, for sure. I don't know that she did it. I wouldn't put it past her to have done it. But I'm thoroughly convinced that Lana is protecting someone and that Angel is in some way involved.
You know, interesting thing, I'm noticing some connections with previous cases. Someone protecting someone else by saying they did it, that's Edgeworth, right?
Yeah.
But also, the very first case, not the first case, the second case, the lady who witnessed the murder from the Gatewater Hotel, she was a quote-unquote innocent witness, but later turns out, what was it? She was a very, very sneaky information seller working for the person who ended up being the bad guy.
Yep.
So maybe a similar situation, maybe they're like bringing in ideas from previous cases all into this one case. Yeah, this lady is actually way smarter than she lets on. She's actually a secret agent or something. You know, she says that she used to be a detective. Maybe she still is, right? I will say the Blue Badger, crazy as it might seem, ends up being monumentally important at some point to the plot. Yeah, I don't remember much about this, but I will say, Eli, that if you had played the last little bit, you would probably be like, oh, maybe Damon Gant did it too, right?
Okay.
Not because he says anything super sinister, but just because, like, the head of, in that second case, it was the head of something all along who ended up being the killer, and then in the previous case the prosecutor ended up being the killer, so you know there's reason to suspect that this guy who's in charge of shit might have been the killer, just because that's how drama works. Yeah, and personally my prediction is that Wendy Oldbag did it.
Okay,
that's the joke. I'm kidding.
Gotcha.
I was just being stupid. No, Gumshoe.
Okay,
did
great. Yeah. Gumshoe was dead the entire time.
Obviously.
The Gumshoe was dead to begin with. Yeah. Oh, and I guess maybe the cowboy could have done it. He hasn't become relevant at all, just besides being weird and being a cowboy, so...
There's something weird about him. He's fishy.
Okay, here's my prediction. Here's my actual prediction. And again, I don't remember this. My actual prediction is that the cowboy ends up being not at all fishy and not even that important to the plot. He's just weird. That's my prediction.
He's just there to add a very weird flavor to the game.
Well, like, he's just the Gumshoe of this case. That's it. Because actual Gumshoe, of course, I think does have a special role in this case, right? Because he's been weirdly kicked off for some reason. Like, there's something going on with Gumshoe. So because of that, I think that the cowboy is just written in as being the stock detective in this case, and he's not going to be important in any way, and we're just going to enjoy him being there. That's my prediction.
Yeah,
cool.
I was convinced that he was the only detective. That like,
yeah, I thought so too. Like, there's a couple of times where you go into the detective's station in the previous chapters, and like there will be one or two people in the background, but I swear, like, it was mostly empty at all times. If not fully empty.
Exactly. Until this case, I was convinced that Gumshoe was the only one. That's why they still keep him on, because he's the only the only detective, in the entire country. Every single case goes through him,
and they can barely even pay his salary.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to plug my phone in so it doesn't die. I just noticed it's quite low on battery. Give me one moment. Thank goodness I checked.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to lose anything.
Yeah, I don't record with my phone, but that's how I talk to y'all.
Yeah.
My computer does the recording and my phone does the actual communication. Anyway, so those are our predictions. That's what might be going on. So, slight change of plan. For next week, we're going to be playing a little bit more than we said before. So for next week, we're playing the next investigation. We're playing the next trial, which I think will also be in 2 parts. It'll be like intermission halfway through, just like this one. And then I'm sure at the end there'll be some kind of big twist. And then we're playing the final investigation as well. So we're playing all the way up until it's like, okay, let's go have the final day of the trial. We're not playing any of the final day, of course, but we're doing, however that ends. Whether they give you a Luna or something. You know, there's always like a scene break. So then the final episode will just be the final trial, which goes on very long, and it'll give us more time to offer to have our predictions and such. If you're following along with this, know that means that next week's a little beefy. So get playing. The LP that I was looking at is like 4 hours or so of just LP. Of course, it takes longer for actually playing because you don't always know what to do. Yep. So again, just to recap, we are going all the way until we're doing investigation, trial, investigation again. Except for Eli, who will be playing a little bit more. Also, to remind everybody, Eli, we're voting on 2 games right now.
Yes, we're voting on between Ys 1 and 2, that's YS, and Star Tropics 1 and 2.
Yep, Star Tropics 1 and 2. If I was...
Could not think of the name for some reason.
If
it
Sam...
just fucking left my brain.
If Sam were here, he would probably pull up the voting page right now and share with us, like, which one's winning, or is it currently tied? Blah 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 blah. Which of our major fans that always votes hasn't voted yet? I'm not going to do that because I don't know how to do that. So maybe some of y'all have voted so far. Maybe. Oh, some news, because of another generous donation by, again, I forget who. You know what? I'll shout you out next time. But sorry, Sam isn't here, so I can't do shout-outs. Because
wait, I can try and find the info.
Well,
because...
I'll explain what it is first. So because of the generous donation, we have now earned enough money on our Ko-Fi to do 2 episodes of our long cast. Our long cast is playing the entire .hack GU, I think, series. It's one of the .hack sub-series. And I believe it's a 3-game series, and we now have to play 2 of them. Which is awesome, which means, because this is all this series is all one story, so that's why we're like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do the whole thing. So we're going to do 2/3 of our .hack GU longcast. We're not starting anytime soon, but FYI, well, actually we probably are starting soon. FYI, that's coming down the pipe. You're going to get some bonus episodes of us playing a very, very long, extremely anime JRPG series. Eli, did you find it?
Yes, I did. That wonderful fan of ours is named Kahr, Kahr.
I thought that too.
Thank you so much. He had some very sweet things to say to me as well in our previously playing in our Discord. Let's see.
There was also a big donation prior to that by Not Kahr as well. We didn't shout that person out either.
Was it Not Kahr? I thought all of those.
I think he had 2 big donations.
2 big ones? Okay,
he gave us a couple of really big ones.
Huge shout out to Kahr, and also if you also gave us a donation, a big donation, or even a regular one, shout out to all of our donors. Of course, we love all of you.
Absolutely.
And if we missed a shout out that we should have given, don't blame us, blame Sam for having a child.
It's definitely his fault.
Fuck you, Sam. Just kidding. We love you.
Love you, Sam.
Love you so much. Please come back.
God, we can't function without you.
We really can't. But yeah, anyway, go friggin' vote. If you're not a supporter yet, please support us on our Ko-Fi. How can you find all this information? Well, you go to www.rpgbook.club. It's got links to our Ko-Fi, it's got links to our Twitter, it's got links to our Discord. Please join our Discord. It rules. We love talking to people on there about all kinds of random crap. It's got our email address if you want to contact us via email. No one ever does that, but you can if you want to. Go to rpgbook.club, give us a holler. If you like what you're hearing, definitely consider becoming a donor. Even a small amount per month really helps out. It helps us, buy fun new games. If we get a ton of money, we could use it to buy, like, games that are more expensive, like a game that might be rare or something, which could let us do episodes on things that you might not normally get to play, which is cool. And even if you don't care about that, it lets you control our lives by forcing us to do things, which is
awesome. That's the best part, honestly.
I used to have to decide what video games I spent my time playing, but now, because I'm really busy with life, I pretty much only have time to play whatever I'm playing for RPG Book Club. So
Yeah.
y'all completely control my like art and media intake with your voting dollars. So hell yeah, love to see it.
Yep.
Anyway,
Excellent.
we will see y'all next week. For RPG Book Club, I have been Maddie Grace Webben.
I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And I'm Francesco JRPGT Nasso.
Bye,
Take
everybody.
care.
Toodaloo!